What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of the SEC on the College Huddle. I am your host, Michael, from the Fanatics Show, with my co-host, Chris Giannini. How you doing tonight, Chris?
Doing pretty good, Michael. What's going on, man?
Oh, not much, man. Glad to be back on here talking some SEC ball with you tonight. It was a lot of fun last week doing a little mock draft. We were talking beforehand. Neither one of us really did well as far as our
I don't know that anybody does well
goes.
on mock drafts.
Do it.
I don't know that anybody does well on mock drafts.
That's very true, especially when you got the Chargers with the fifth pick taking an offensive lineman when we both expected wide receivers. So but it was a lot of fun. And tonight we're gonna do some big topics about that kind of have to do with the SEC, but college football in general as well. As you can see on the screen, we've got our first topic tonight is college football realignment. Sorry, I think my microphone cut off for a second, but college football realignment is what we're going to talk about. So, Chris, what are some of your thoughts on the realignment for this coming season?
So this is the first year where we're going to have major realignment. So we've had minor realignment, and I say minor, it's not a knock to, the Cincinnati's and the UCF's moving and things of that nature. But we actually have a major Power 5 conference that will be dissolved and destroyed. You have the two biggest players in historically the Big 12 moving over. And now we're basically going to see the SEC and the Big 10 for the first time be true monster conferences, not just in quantity of teams, but in the size and the scope of their contracts and the caliber and historic value of the teams. So it's going to be weird. It's going to be interesting. And I have quite a few opinions. If you watched my live draft show that I did with the Westlot Pirate guys that are the Northwestern group for the College Huddle that we do every year annually. This will be a little bit of a broken record towards the end of the draft when it was all over. We kind of rambled. I got their opinions on this and I gave them mine and we'll talk about it, man. What do you think?
So I'm a bit of a traditionalist for the most part. I don't like a whole lot of change. Now, there's some that's come to grow on me, like the playoffs. Great idea. It's better to have a playoff than just have two teams going in like we had in the BCS. I was kind of against A&M and Missouri coming into the SEC to start with, but you see where we're at now. I think it's been a good change. Wasn't the biggest fan when I heard that Texas and Oklahoma were coming in, but I quickly said, you know what? I had these same thoughts when A&M and Missouri came in. Let's see how it goes. And, I don't like that we're just dissolving a whole Power 5 conference, but, it's the way things go sometimes. And, the Pac-12 kind of screwed themselves as far as TV deals, stuff like that went. They just made a lot of bad decisions, but, things happen. We're at where we're at now. We got Texas, Oklahoma coming to the SEC. You've got USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon going to the Big 10. Arizona State, Utah, and I'm missing one.
Colorado.
Thank you. All going to the Big 12. Then the head scratcher over the whole thing, California and Stanford going to the ACC. I mean, that's we've got the Atlantic Coast Conference with two teams sitting on the West Coast there. I mean, are they going to eventually change the name of the conference or what's
called the American Coast Conference, and then it's going to be a coast and a coast, and that's an assumption of mine based on the lack of creativity that the people that run this sport have. And that's what I think they'll do. So here's my thought, and this is a hypothetical that I brought up to the group that I did the live draft with. I would bring it up to you. Okay, the thing that I've always loved about college football is it is a sport in which teams are basically set up to go 6-6 for every basic reason. All right. Watching your team win is fun. Okay. That's important. And that's a good thing. Uh, I think that we are about to enter a world where there are going to be several teams that are currently, right now, used to going 6-6. Every couple of years, they will fall below that. And also, every 4 to 5 years, they'll compete for 8 to 9 wins, okay, and be really good. Um, I think those teams are going to struggle in the new world to get 4 to 5 wins. And at what point in time, see, this is something that there's an old saying that says the greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing people that he wasn't real.
Yep.
Conference commissioners and college administrators have played the greatest trick on college football fans as anybody has ever played in the history of the sport, and it is convincing fans to care more about the amount of money their school makes than the amount of wins their school gets. And I think that's insane. And I basically have a wager with several of my friends that at least one school from the Big 10, sorry, as currently constituted going in 2024, and one school from the SEC in 5 years is going to say, all of this money is not worth it. We will leave the $80 million, $100 million, whatever the number is, and we will go join the American. We will win 9 to 10 games a year. We will compete for that last playoff spot, and we will go from complete irrelevancy to relevant on the flip of a switch. I also believe that little old Memphis, right in my hometown, just right across the border from where I live, will be more relevant to college football than many schools in the SEC and the Big Ten, because they are now going to be one of those schools that is going to win 9 or 10 games a year every year. They are going to compete and be in the running for that last playoff spot. And there are going to be several SEC schools that will struggle. They will scratch and claw with their fingernails to try to get to 4 and 5 wins. I think the days of moonwalking your way to 6 wins are over for some of these programs. I think the gap between the haves and the have-nots have dissipated. Because all of them are making the same amount of money is not going to be an issue. And that is my opinion, and that is what I am guessing going forward. And I think at some point in time, these school presidents, the boosters that run these schools, are going to say, I want to win on Saturdays. And I don't give a damn that the TV contract is paying us a lot of money. I'll take $30 million from some small other contract, and we'll go win 9-10 games.
I don't think I disagree with you on that. And, kind of along the same note there, do you think that Washington State and Oregon State, having not been invited or joining a Power 5 conference, do you think that they might be coming out of here with the better end of the deal out of all these Pac-12 schools because of that? I mean, they're basically going to be playing a Mountain West schedule. Right now they have got the money from Pac-12. They've got resources there from Pac-12. They're going into a situation where more than likely they are going to win a lot of games this year because of that Mountain West schedule that they're playing, and could be looking at locking up that final spot to get into the playoffs.
I could see them being the equivalency of Memphis, Oregon, not Oregon, Boise
Liberty.
State from the past. You know what I'm talking about? Just historically, Boise State was just the dominant G5 school for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them becoming that now. Yes, they have resources. They have all the money from the Pac-12 coming to just them 2 schools. I jokingly have said all year on Twitter and to friends and anybody who will listen is I hope that they do what poor people do when they finally get money, which is just piss it away on something stupid. I want to see what they can spend this amount of money on, because they've got an obscene amount of money coming to them. And you're right. I think they're going to be set up in a better situation than everybody who just left the Pac-12, except for in the worlds of probably USC and Oregon. You know, I don't know the historical deep pockets of Washington. I don't know that Washington just replaces Caleb DeBoer. You know, I know that they lost a ton to the draft, and that was a pretty special team. Can they just reload, or are they going to go to being, you know, I look at the Big Ten West as it used to be as of last year, and I just wonder where are these teams going to find wins.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. So that kind of leads me into another question, kind of like what you talked about earlier. You know, you expect in the next 5 years a Big Ten team and an SEC team to say, you know, don't care about the money, I want wins. Do you think that these Pac-12 teams, maybe not the ones going to the Big 12, because that's not going to be a huge travel thing. You know, you got Arizona State, they're already right there in Big 12 territory. Colorado used to be in the Big 12. You know, they'll pick it up pretty quick. Utah is right there on the edge of it, but they don't have huge travel. But, you know, you got USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Cal, Stanford, all having to travel to the East Coast for games this year. Do you think that travel ends up wearing down on the schools and they say, you know, did we really make the right decision doing this? And, you know, do they try to find another situation here a few years down the road?
Well, I think some of the schools will. The big schools won't. These guys all fly private anyway. They're already flying charter. So it's not going to affect them. And also, I don't think the jet lag or anything of that nature will affect these guys. They're young and they're primo athletes in the prime of their life. I'm not worried about a flight from LA to New Jersey taking much toll on the athletes of USC. You know, so I think the travel is going to be fine for football. I do think at some point in time they're going to have to figure something out for non-recreational sports or not recreational, but non-revenue sports, because why on earth would you want to travel your tennis team across the country? You know, why would you do that? Why would you travel track and field? Like, these are things that don't make any sense. But football only, I don't know that the travel is going to be the thing that brings this thing to a halt. I just think at some point in time, your boosters, your fans are going to demand that you put a product on the field, and winning begets winning in college football because we don't have a draft. All right. You can't force high school kids to come to your school. If everybody's making a lot of money and everybody's offering a lot of money, then kids are going to want to go to places that are already winning, that already have something rolling. You have to offer a kid something very unique that nobody else is offering them. And I just wonder, are there enough elite talented kids out there to go around to all of these schools where they can? I think the talent has spread out more than it's ever spread out. If you look at the top 25, and if you look at, you know, who's competing in these schools every year, you know, I think NIL and the transfer portal, you know, is doing what a lot of people predicted it would do. But I also think that there is a plateau for some of these schools. And I don't think that plateau is going anywhere. I think some of these schools are going to hit a ceiling, like always. And at some point in time, when the schedule breaks wrong and you have to play LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and Oklahoma, where the hell are you finding wins? You better damn sure make certain you win your pay for wins. And now we're talking about bringing in just little bitty schools and hoping that you can just beat all of them.
Yeah, and, you know, to your point there about the talent pool, you know, kind of being spread thin for some of those, you know, you've got, we'll just use SEC teams for instance. You've got teams like Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, you know, Texas now, Oklahoma. You've got teams that can pull in that top talent. A lot of that top talent is going to want to go there, and then they'll go to some of the Ole Misses, the Floridas, you know, Texas A&M would be on that top tier, but
Texas A&M's ever been on that top tier.
Yeah, you know, they'll go to the Arkansas, the Missouri, stuff like that. But then you get down to teams like Kentucky, Mississippi State, South Carolina, yep. Some of those right there that I feel like that plateau that you're talking about is there.
That's it.
Some of that talent is going to want to go to teams like Memphis, like Liberty, like Coastal Carolina, some of these group of 5 teams that have had success as of late, because there's a chance that they're going to be playing on that big stage where maybe a team like South Carolina or Mississippi State might not be playing on that big stage just because there is that plateau there.
That's exactly what I'm talking about when I say that South Carolina fans or Mississippi, and don't come at me, I'm using your school as an example because we're only using historical data. Okay, I can only use what I've seen. It doesn't mean that Beamer won't totally turn things around and y'all are the new Tennessee or Florida or whatever. So don't get your feelings hurt with that. But that is the type of school that I'm talking about, that in 5 years, they're going to rather be Memphis with their little bitty TV contract making $30 million a year and you're making $80 million a year, and it's not moving the needle, and you're struggling to win 4 or 5. You got 3 pay for wins, and you got to hope that you can win. Oh, no, if you're South Carolina, you don't even have 3 pay for wins because one of those games is against Clemson. So you got 2 pay for wins. Now you got to hope that you beat 2 SEC schools just to get to 4 wins. Now, how many SEC games you got to win just to get to 6-6? And if the schedule doesn't break right, none of those. There's a world where you're not favored in any of those games. And I just wonder how long will the fans hold out for that? How long are the fans going to be okay with their administration getting these big old checks and losing football games? I don't that's the thing that I can't reason with. I am a diehard LSU fan. I do not give one hot damn how much money LSU makes. Okay. I want to win football games. I want to compete for titles. All right. Yeah. And I don't care how much money the administration makes. Now, it's easy to say that right now because I'm thinking about football. Now, I had a buddy of mine ask me, well, what do these schools do with all this money? And then I pointed to LSU. And I said, well, we have the best gymnastics program in the country. We have one of the best girls basketball team in the country. We have one of the best baseball teams in the country. Like, what do you spend your money on? You spend your money on trophy buys, trophy wins, things that aren't going to make you any money, but they give you a lot of prestige. They get you in the news. They keep you relevant in the sports cast all throughout. And if you look at gymnastics or girls basketball right now, okay, look at softball as well. The SEC used to be non-existent in all of those sports except for women's basketball with Miss Pat. All right, Summit at Tennessee. That's it. That was the list. And then South Carolina invested a lot of money into women's basketball, and South Carolina got really, really good. And now look across it. Plenty of SEC teams are in the top 10, top 15 in gymnastics, women's basketball, softball. What happened? Well, it's easy to spend a lot of money on those sports because a lot of money, quote unquote, in those sports isn't a lot of money. The greatest women's basketball or gymnastics coach might only cost you like $80,000 a year. Oh, well then, let's just go buy that guy. We got that money falling out of our pockets. We're going to waste that money on a guide to watch recruiting film of high school kids. Yeah, let's just go pay that guy and let's be the best gymnastics team in the country. And that's what they're spending their money on. I think those are good things, but at some point in time, nobody would take 4-win seasons, 5-win seasons, never going to a bowl game, never being competitive, and having really good non-revenue sports.
Yeah, so I want to point out one SEC team in particular, just because of their schedule this year, and I'll pull it up here. We got Florida this year, who might have one of the toughest schedules that we have ever seen.
Ever.
Because you talked about right now you should have about 2, maybe 3 pay for wins. Yeah.
Florida doesn't because they get Miami. So when you have a and they get Florida State. Holy shit.
This year you're non-conference. You've got Miami. You've got Samford. That's your one pay for win there.
That's it. That's the list.
You've got UCF. and then you go to Florida State for your non-conference, and then just look at the conference schedule. You're playing against Tennessee on the road, Georgia in Jacksonville. You go to Texas, LSU at home, Ole Miss at home, and then Texas A&M and Mississippi State this year are not going to be the pushovers that they might be in the past. I mean, Texas A&M under new coach, we'll see where they go.
Both of them are crapshoots. But let me tell you, if you're Florida, you got to win those 2 games. Listen, if you don't if you don't come out 4-1, against Miami, Samford, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and UCF, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. You're right. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Every year, there's going to be at least 1 or 2 schools that look just like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So to your point there, if a team like Florida doesn't get at least 6 wins, and really Florida, 6 wins is not even acceptable. I mean, they're expecting at least 8 wins. They're expecting a high bowl game at the end of the season. At one point, do you say, okay, something has got to change? Because right now, Billy Napier, and I don't blame this all on Billy Napier because he came into a rough spot. Dan Mullen literally drugged that program through the mud on his way out the door. That's right. And Billy Napier is trying to rebuild. So he is in a tough spot.
And he didn't make the schedule either.
No, he did not make the schedule. It was already made before he got here. But, I've got a feeling that Billy Napier will be fired at the end of the year, and I don't think it's going to be his fault.
No. If Billy Napier wins 8 games with this schedule, he's coach of the year. And I don't care what else happens. I don't care what else happens. If Billy Napier wins 8 games with this schedule, he's coach of the year.
Yeah. I completely agree with you because this is just a brutal schedule here.
Now, most teams won't have Miami and Florida State and UCF as non-cons. You'll never see that again in the new world of the SEC. That I don't foresee that. But now you're asking a team like Florida to give up one of 2 traditional Florida in-state rivalries with Miami and Florida State. Because they can't keep them both and play an SEC schedule every year. They just can't. That would be unreasonable to ask of them.
Yeah, which, they would give up Miami because this is the first time in a while that they have played Miami. Right. But yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying there. But, kind of going back to the football realignment talk here, let's kind of move into the updated college football playoffs. Starting the 12-team playoffs this year. You got your top 4 conference championship game winners will get they will get the top 4 spots. You'll have the group of 5. The top group of 5 team is going to be automatically in, and then you've got your at-large teams coming in. How do you feel about the 12-team playoff compared to the 4-team playoff?
Oh, first off, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I cannot wait for playoff football games to be played on college campuses. Listen, college football is special because of the college towns that make up the majority of these teams in these schools. Most of them aren't in big cities. Some of them are, but most of them are not. They're in little college towns in the middle of nowhere parts of these states. And they have charm and they are unique. And to put playoff games there, I think it's not going to be long before they say the first 2 rounds are going to be at home. And they're going to tell the bowl system to piss off. And here's the reason why. Because those 4 teams that get the bye are going to see how amazing that home game atmosphere is. And if you're Georgia and you're the number 1 team in the country, and you're going to look over there and say, wait a minute, we got to go play in the Superdome? No, I want to go play between the hedges. Do you see what this is like? Do you see how amazing that atmosphere is? I want somebody to have to come in between the hedges and beat us, and I think this is what college sports should have been doing all along. Why are we outsourcing revenue to these big stadiums and not taking advantage of playing on campus? So I'm excited for it. I love it. I like the way they're doing it with the at-larges. I think that's the most fair way. I really hate it when the SEC and the Big Ten try to manipulate. We want X amount of teams in, because I think meritocracy. If you're good enough, you get in. That's it. That's all. I don't care if you cannibalize yourself. Tough shit. It doesn't matter. You don't get the luxury of saying, well, we played a really hard schedule, we should get in over somebody else. The thing that I don't like about it, I'll tell you one big negative that I really hate. The SEC and the Big Ten already make more money than everybody else. They already have more power and influence than everybody else, and they have manipulated to where they are going to guaranteed make more money off of the playoff than everybody else. And it's not by a little, it's by a lot. I think that's insane. I think every playoff spot should be worth X amount of dollars. Every playoff win should be worth X amount of dollars. And if you have more teams make the playoffs and more teams win in the playoffs and go on and play more games, then that conference should make more money. I don't understand how we've already fixed the price of money before we even started. This is not a hard concept. The playoff is worth X amount. Every win is in the first round is worth this percentage. Every win in the second round is worth this. Or game played is worth this. Every game played is worth that, and so on and so forth until we crown a champion. And I don't understand why they already have all the power and all the money, and they still have to take more money from these other schools.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll kind of go backwards on my thoughts on the playoffs, and I'll start with the money situation. And I'll take, my local high school as an example here. So when you get into tournament play, well, I'll take basketball for instance, because that's the easiest tournament reference I can come with. So
there you go.
You have a play-in round game, and each school does get a cut of money from that district tournament revenue that is made. But if you get put out in that play-in round game, you get X amount.
That's right.
The teams that win that and go into the actual tournament part of it get another part of it. Then once you move on from the district and you make it to that next level, that region play, the teams that make that get an extra amount. So it ought to be, as you said, based on your performance in the playoffs, you get so much more, to reward those teams, conferences, whatever. It should not be, SEC, Big Ten here, Big 12, ACC here, Group of 5 here. It should not be like that. It ought to depend on the success that you have in those playoffs.
If the bracket breaks correctly and we end up with a championship game of North Carolina and Florida State, the fact that the ACC is already set in stone to only get their portion that they've been allotted, and that's it, and the SEC and the Big Ten get to rake in hordes more of money than the ACC when we didn't outperform them in the playoff is insane to me. It's just marketably insane. I don't understand it, and I can't explain why the schools all agreed to this. I don't know why you have to. I know why the SEC and the Big Ten did it, because they all want more. I don't know why you have to fleece your opponents with everything. That's what I don't understand. At some point in time, somebody has to do the right thing for the sport. Somebody has to stand up and say, we're all making more money than we could ever imagine. I think it's okay to split this fairly and not just have it predetermined that we make it all.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, that kind of leads me into, the second part of it that you talked about earlier, the SEC and the Big Ten wanting a certain amount of teams in the playoffs. I totally agree with you as well. It should be based on what you did in the regular season. And, this past season was kind of chalk, which was the first time that we had seen it in the playoff era, as far as the best teams in each conference. They won their conference championships, minus Georgia. But, you had the teams that were expected to win, they won it. So it worked out perfectly. But, on any given year, you've got the SEC has 3 to 4 teams that, if we had a 12-team playoff then, would probably be in.
That's right.
The Big Ten has 3, possibly a 4th if you add in Iowa, but really it's 3.
I was not in the same realm.
No, I agree.
But now that Oregon and Washington and USC are in, then that really, really, really bolsters the Big Ten a lot.
Yeah, and I'll go back to,
but they're going to cannibalize themselves. They're going to do what the SEC is going to do. No one's getting 5 in this joker, because at some point in time you're going to be picking a team with 4 losses or 5 losses over a team in another conference, in a smaller conference, with 2 losses.
Exactly, and that's kind of what we saw from the Pac-12 this year. If there had been a 12-team playoff, and it had started in week 6,
yep,
you would have had what, 5 teams from the Pac-12 in there?
That's right.
And then towards the end, they did cannibalize themselves. You still would have had at least 2. You would have had Oregon and Washington both in there.
Correct.
But I'll go as far as the realignment rules next year. You're more than likely going to have 4 SEC teams in. That's right. And I'm going to suspect, probably based on scheduling, Georgia, Texas, I'm going to say Missouri, just because of their schedule this year. They've got a very light schedule. And I'm going to say probably one of either Ole Miss, Tennessee, or Alabama. It is going to be that 4th team. No disrespect to LSU. But I do think that LSU is going to be a good team this year. They've always got a good football team. So we'll see where it goes.
I'm not in the business of trying to predict that far in advance of what might happen. We haven't even played a football game yet. So that's fine. Yeah, I'm not that thin skin. You're okay.
Yeah, and I'm just, kind of using a hypothetical too. You're probably going to have 4 SEC teams in.
Yeah.
You're going to have probably Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and one more, whether it be Michigan. I don't think so because of what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
But, you're probably going to have one more Big Ten school in there, maybe a USC, maybe a Washington. Right off the top of my head, I couldn't think of another one. But
then you go to going to be in the consideration.
Yes.
But they've got to perform. Penn State hadn't been close in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust their quarterback very much. He's going to have to make massive strides. Washington is a complete rebuild with a totally new coach. They might come out playing like gangbusters. They also might come out and fall on their dicks and be terrible. So would it surprise me if the Big Ten gets 2 teams in? No, that won't surprise me. The fact that, but here's the thing: however the chips fall is how they fall. Yeah. That's the amount of teams you get.
Yeah. So let's go.
I just want however the schedule breaks for it to break. I don't want a predetermined set amount. I'm okay with saying the conference champion gets in. I'm okay with saying that if we end up with a 4-loss conference champion for some weird reason because we have some then I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm totally fine. Like, that doesn't hurt my feelings. I don't have delicate sensibilities about it. I'm perfectly fine with that happening.
Yeah. So let's go over to the ACC for a minute. So you've got probably Florida State and Clemson. Year in and year out would be competing for spots in there. Let's say both of them get in. Maybe a North Carolina could fight their way in. Maybe a Miami,
North Carolina
State, yeah. But maybe a Louisville. I mean, you saw the turnout that they had this year.
I love Jeff Brom too. God, I love.
Yeah, Jeff Brom he's a good head coach.
No, he's a man. Yeah.
But back whenever Clemson was just dominating everybody, was there any other ACC team that would have made it into a 12-team playoff?
No, not even close. Not even close.
So why would we have 2 ACC teams guaranteed to make it?
Why would you fix it to where we had that? Yeah, you wouldn't. You just wouldn't. It wouldn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, and same thing for the Big 12. You just lost your 2 best teams in Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. What 2 teams are going to make it out of the Big 12 to need to be considered for a playoff spot right now?
Yeah.
Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Arizona? I mean,
Kansas. I think Kansas State has something to say, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
No, but I under we're in agreement here that fixing the number, having a set number of we have guaranteed spots. I'm just never going to be okay with. I don't, just like I don't like the guaranteed money. I think football is great because it is about a meritocracy. It is about what is earned on the field. And what these conferences are afraid of, the reason they wanted the fixed spots, their argument is, well, we have this committee, and the committee is still picking the playoff group, and we don't want them to make a determination. First off, we already know that if they're going to have a bias, they're going to have a bias towards the big conferences and the big schools. It is not the big conferences that should be afraid of the committee. It is absolutely the smaller schools or the smaller conferences that should be afraid of the committee, because they have no qualms at all about screwing them. Yeah. That's just simple. So,
yeah, absolutely. And then going to it was the first part that you talked about, but it'll be the last part for me. I 100% agree with you that you should have 2 rounds of home football games at the higher seed, because, and I'll just take it for our 2 teams' environment. It would be absolutely insane to have a playoff game in Knoxville, to have a playoff game in Death Valley, in Tuscaloosa, in Georgia. I mean, the atmosphere that would be there for those games, it would be on a totally different level.
You're talking about the big schools. Let me just think what it would mean to the city of Oxford if Ole Miss hosted a football game. All right, what would it mean to a city like that? These are the small towns that I am talking about. What would that mean to them?
Oh man, that would mean so much. And I'll move to the other Mississippi school. Oh. What about if Jeff Lebby turns around Mississippi State's program and they were to host a playoff game? Can you imagine the cowbells at a playoff game? That would be insane. And
we brought them up earlier in the Big 12. What does it mean if it goes to Stillwater or if it goes to Manhattan, Kansas? Like these small places that love college football. What if Nebraska? What if Matt Rule gets things turned around and you get a home field environment in Nebraska, Big Red? Like this is the most beautiful thing about this sport. And we've moved it to these stale, commercialized AT&T, Mercedes-Benz, and I love New Orleans. I love Dallas. Man, I love Atlanta. These are awesome cities. Come on. They get enough. They have enough. And I'm fine with the Final Four being there. Okay, I'm fine. Or the Final Four big bowls games being there. I'm fine with that. Like, give the big cities the big games at the end. But let's play the first 2 rounds at home games. And I, yes, we could imagine what it would be like in Death Valley or at the Horseshoe at Ohio State or whatever. But if Cincinnati ever hosted a bowl game, like that is a commuter school in a big city, and that place would shut down downtown Cincinnati. Like these are the atmospheres that I'm thinking about when I'm talking about how beautiful this sport is and how important it is. And Notre Dame, not in a conference. Notre Dame's got a hell of a shot to host South Bend on a playoff football Saturday. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, this is what's beautiful about it. Please stop giving this stuff to Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Cincinnati there, because that led me into the small schools, smaller towns. Again, a couple of years ago, if we had the 12-team playoffs, Cincinnati would have gotten to a host. Well, I guess technically with the model right now, they wouldn't, because they were in the top 4. But
that's right, they had to buy.
Yeah, but let's just say we get a group of 5 team that is good enough that they will end up hosting a game. And I'll just throw out a couple of schools that I think would be awesome environments. What about a game in Huntington, West Virginia with Marshall? I mean, you get a Liberty getting to host a playoff game. You get a Coastal Carolina. I mean, Appalachian State.
Yeah. App State's one of the most beautiful places in the world. You get up there in the mountains, man, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. Or a team that I think in the near future will make a 12-team playoff, a James Madison. James Madison, what the transformation that they have had going from the FCS now the FBS level, it's insane. And the fan base that they have that comes out and supports their team, if you get that type of environment hosting a playoff game, man, that's college football at its absolute best right there.
So I just, like I said, the powers that be have to start making some decisions. Listen, you've got your money, okay? You've got it. You've got all the power and all the influence. Now, please, someone start doing what's best for the sport, okay?
Yeah.
Nobody's coming to take your money away.
I absolutely agree with you on that. So with that, let's move into one other topic for tonight that also needs to be fixed. You got the transfer portal in the NIL. So transfer portal, you had the lawsuit that was dredged up by the University of Tennessee and the Virginia chancellors and all that against the NCAA. The laws basically it said that the laws the NCAA were trying to make did not follow the Constitution. It is basically the Wild West when it comes to the transfer portal. You can transfer whenever, wherever, however many times you want to, all that. What would you do to fix the transfer portal?
So here's the problem. And here's the problem with this whole situation is college football gave everything has to be done in context, right? So right now you said, yes, it's the Wild West. All right. Well, what happened before the Wild West? All right. We're going to use some ugly analogies here. Okay. Before the Wild West, we had like the founding of our country and we had slavery. All right. So I'm not equating college kids to slavery, but I'm saying that we held these kids back for 100 years. We gave them nothing, literally to the point where if cream cheese went on your bagel, that was seen as you could have the bagel, but you can't have the cream cheese. That's an inducement. That's how tightly we held to these college kids getting nothing above board. We all know they got a lot below board.
Yeah.
My issue is this. When you finally set that spring loose, the pendulum is going to swing the other way, and it is going to be chaos. All right. You have what you defined as the Wild West. And I believe that because they held so tightly for so long, there is no rule that you can create to put it back in the box, because now that these kids are able to make money. See, I was of the opinion that I don't have a problem with you being able to transfer one time. And if you get one free transfer, you can transfer for any reason at any time, anytime you want. But after that one, you have to sit out for 1 year. All right. And the only reason I was cool with that was because I will never, ever. So first off, I will never see your college education be seen as part of your payment. Okay. You can't say that we're going to pay you, but we're only going to pay. You can only shop at the company store. All right. Yeah. That is not a paycheck. While it has value, it is not a paycheck. Okay. Because all college educations aren't seen as equal. So I don't say, well, we're paying you in an education, but what I will say is it's never a punishment to force a kid to get 1 free year of education. That can, while I don't see it as a payment, I also don't see it as a punishment either. All right. The worst thing that happens is you have to sit out for 1 year, and then you can play the next year. You can get healthy, you can practice, you can learn the playbook, you can do all of these things, and you can go to class and you can get a free year of education and not have to play. All right. But the only problem with that rule now is this Tennessee lawsuit, which is actually correct. Based on the laws that we have, forcing that kid to sit out is now impeding their ability to make money. And that is against federal law in our country. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to change that. And here's my thing. I'm actually okay with the chaos. Do I like it? No. But I like this system so much better than the old system for one reason and one reason only. The fact that coaches could come and go at the mere whim of administration or their desire, but players were married to schools if they signed a letter of intent, was infuriating to me. And I found it the definition of hypocrisy. And it really, really bothers me when guys like Nick Saban go on TV, who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, criticizing kids for wanting tens of thousands of dollars. These families have nothing, and you have anything you could possibly want, and you say that these kids are wrong. Their family is wrong. They're wanting the wrong things for wanting to get money. I find that to be disgusting, like vile to my stomach, that rich people would tell poor people that they shouldn't want what we have. How dare you think you can have what I have? So I think that's pretty disgusting, and I have a problem with that. So I don't mind these kids getting paid. What I don't want them to be is I don't want them to be employees of the schools. I think that's bad for the schools, and I think it's really bad for the kids. Keep getting the money the way you're getting it right now. Go get your NIL money, sign the sponsorship deals, let the collectives collect money and divvy it out however they feel is negotiated with you. Make sure you get contracts, hire attorneys. I would hire attorneys before I hire an agent, because people are going to find you to give you money. These people want you to come to their school. Yeah. You don't need an agent out there selling for you. All right. What you need is an attorney to make sure that contract goes through, that you get your ass paid. Okay. That's what you need to make sure nobody reneges on their deals. But because of the lawsuit, back to the transfer part, I don't know how you fix this. If it wasn't for the lawsuit, I could come up with 100 different ways that we could all find various ways of agreeing or not agreeing. With that lawsuit, I don't know how you restrict somebody's right to make money.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is because of the lawsuit and the lack of rules that can be enforced and all that, I don't know exactly how you would fix it. Here is my idea of it, and like I said, I don't know if this would go in accordance with any rules, if it would be able to be enforced the correct way, anything like that. But you know, when you commit to a school and you eventually sign there, you're signing that letter of intent. To me, that is like a contract. So, when you get drafted into pros, whether it be NFL, NBA, MLB, you sign a contract to play for that team. So, in my opinion, whenever you sign that letter of intent, it is like a contract. And I think that you should have to be there for 1 to 2 years, depending on your situation. If something happens your freshman year that is just absolutely terrible, it's not a good situation for you, absolutely, you should be allowed out of that contract. Otherwise, I think you should have to be there 2 years. Then you can transfer somewhere, transfer to a better spot, transfer to a smaller school, whatever. Then you should be allowed a graduate transfer spot too, because, some schools don't offer a graduate program that you might want to do. So I think that you should definitely be allowed to transfer as a grad student as well. I think that's my personal opinion as far as the transfer stuff. Like I said, I don't know if that would be in accordance with the laws, anything like that. I also get your point, though, as far as, you should be allowed to go where you want to, because you never know a certain player's situation, what's going on behind the scenes, anything like that. So ultimately, we can make all the hypotheticals that we want. We can suggest this, suggest that. I don't know if there is a good solution, though. No, I don't know if there will be one for a while.
I think it's done because of the fair trade rules. That's just it. They would have to change federal laws about fair trade and working. And Congress is not going to do that for college sports. They're just not, because it would affect every union in the country. It would affect every state in the country and all of their employment laws. No one's going to do that for college sports. They're just not. So in an ideal world, like I said, I would give everybody one free transfer. If it wasn't for them their ability to restrict trade and make money. I'd give everybody one free one. No questions asked. I don't care who's sick. I don't care if your girlfriend's. You can leave for any reason whatsoever. But after that, you can still leave anytime you'd like. But every time you leave after that, you sit for 1 year. Now, it's not a year of eligibility, but you sit for 1 year. I don't think that's a punishment. I don't think forcing a kid to go to school for 1 year without playing football is a punishment. But once again, none of these rules are going to happen now because kids are allowed to get paid. And I'm okay with them getting paid. I'm good with them getting paid. I don't think they should all get paid the same because their effort is not all the same. Their output is not all the same. We as people are not equal. I do not make the same as all the people that I work with at my job. And I think that's okay. There are people that are far more qualified, that have more experience than me, that make more money than me. There are people that are less qualified and have less experience than me that make less than me. And that's okay too.
Exactly. Because that scenario that you just brought up right there, you know, would you pay why would you pay a 35-year veteran at a job this amount right here, and then you're going to turn around and pay somebody that's been on the job for 2 days that same amount? Why would you even think about doing that? So you're 100% correct in that. I don't mind these guys getting paid because, I mean, for instance, I had an interview with a local high school kid that just signed to play at the Naval Academy. And in that interview, I asked, what does Navy do as far as NIL, or is NIL a situation or anything like that? He said, Navy does not have that because when you are at school there, you are enlisted in the Navy. That is your job. That is how you make money.
You get a paycheck.
Yeah. All right. So you go to we'll just use Tennessee as an example because they were the main people in the lawsuit here. You go to Tennessee, you're an athlete. A lot of times you're not going to be making money because you just don't have time to go out and work a job, go to school, and play football. So you need to have a way to make some sort of money, which is why the NIL is a good thing. But absolutely, you're correct. You're not going to pay Nico Iamaleava one amount and then have walk-on freshmen make the exact same amount.
We'll take it. We'll take it a step further. All right. If I had to go in for heart surgery, which one day, the way I've lived and you see the size of me, that's probably going to happen. All right. We're gonna walk into a surgery center. All right. In that room, there's going to be a heart doctor. Okay. In that room, there's also going to be an anesthesiologist, and in that room, there's going to be multiple different technicians and nurses of all different levels and calibers. I assure you, the heart doctor, the surgeon, makes more than everybody. Okay. And I want him to.
Yes.
It doesn't mean the anesthesiologist isn't as important. Okay. But there's hundreds of anesthesiologists in the Memphis area. I want the best heart doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people can put me to sleep and wake me up. I want the best heart doctor. This is the thing when you say we're stepping on a football field. Yes, the center is important. Yes, the running back is important. They're not as important as the quarterback. And to say that they need to make the same amount of money is asinine. There is no business on the planet that does that. That's it. That's all. There are different levels of degree of how valuable you are to a business and to a company. And these football programs need to be seen as the exact same. And if a kid is elite and worth the money, and forget this, I believe somebody is worth what somebody is willing to pay them. You might not. So this is the issue that I always have with all of my family, and they're all older guys that all have the same opinion. I'm okay with them making money, but this is just outrageous. No, you just don't want them to make more money than you make. Okay, you worked your ass off at the air conditioning place for a long time, and you make $65,000 a year. And the fact that they're making $1 million a year or $200,000 a year is obscene to you. I'm really sorry that hurts your feelings, but that's just how it goes. They do something that a fraction of the people on the planet can do at their level, and you do something that hundreds of thousands of people can do in our state.
And that's something that I never really looked at it that way, but when you say that, it does make a lot of sense.
Everybody, nobody's upset that they make anything, but they all want them to make 15,000 a year. They all want them to make 30 grand a year. They all want them to have a shitty job. Well, why is that? Hang on. You're okay with them making money, but you just don't want them to make more than you. Is that what this is?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic point on that, and like I said, something that I'd never thought about. But ultimately, what can you do to fix transfer portal? What can you do to fix NIL? I do. You mentioned earlier that you don't want it to get to the point where players are going to be paid and treated like employees, anything like that. Unfortunately, I do think that this is the direction that is going towards eventually.
I do too.
But
I think it's bad for the players also, by the way. I think that's bad.
I agree.
The kids. I think they're going to put stuff in contracts that are going to screw the kids, because I know the people that run these schools, and I know that they've never done anything in the best interest of the players. Not once in the history of this sport have they ever done anything in the best interest of the kids. They do what's in the best interest of them. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, and let's have this quick conversation too. So let's just say hypothetically that it goes that direction and you start paying the players as employees. What happens to walk-ons at that point? Do the walk-ons just go away? Because let's take it from a business perspective here. You've got your employees that are they're on file there, they're getting paid. Are you just going to have somebody come in off the street and say, hey, I'd like to be in here and try this out and just kind of ride the waves of things and see how it goes? Are you going to pay them to do that? Because essentially that's kind of like a walk-on. You're not necessarily good enough to get a scholarship.
Yeah. But
you are good enough to walk on and have a roster spot. How do they go about paying those players? Because they're not on scholarship.
So I think scholarship is going to be a word that's going to go away, by the way. And I also think this is really bad for, hang on. Nobody thinks about big picture, but I can't sleep at night because I can't help but think about big picture. Okay. So now we're going to start paying these kids, right? So what we're going to stop doing? We're going to stop giving them a scholarship. Now, you know how that affects. Hey, I'm giving you $200,000 a year. Well, it only costs like 20 grand to go to Ole Miss. So, you could pay for your own school. That's fine. Here's how that affects. What does Title IX say? Title IX says you have to give the same amount of female scholarships as you give to. This is going to save the schools a fortune. It's going to save the schools a fortune. They're going to take all this big TV money and they're going to give it to the players as a salary and stop scholarshiping them. And, we used to have 85 scholarship athletes for men. We don't have those anymore. So we're going to cut 85 female scholarships, and now we're going to save a whole lot of money for the school. I'm telling you, you think these people are going to do the right thing? You think the people that run these organizations, that run these schools, are going to do the right thing? No. This is going to end badly. It's going to end badly for everybody. Now, what was your question? I apologize. I went on a rant. I thought about that, and I thought, holy shit, this is absolutely what they're going to do. What was your original question?
It was the walk-ons. Where did they go from here?
That's an interesting question, because at the place that I work at, because of insurance purposes, I can't just bring my friend to work when we're like shorthanded and he just come into work. Oh, no. There are liability. Can you have somebody who is unpaid be on the practice squad holding a tackling dummy, be a tackling dummy for somebody who is paid? Who covers the insurance for that? Is that even going to be allowed? I don't know how that would work. Now, let's say insurance is no big deal. Right now, these guys are all insured and all this stuff from some school insurance that they have and all this stuff. If that's not an issue, then all your walk-ons, they're just not going to get paid. All right. Well, we're just not going to pay. You get the experience of being here. You don't get a scholarship. You get to hold the tackling dummy. Nothing in your life changes, but you don't get any money. If we win a title, we're probably going to give you a ring. And that's it. That's the extent of it. And I don't think that economy changes. The only way that changes is if some practice player gets hurt And now they say, you see that big defensive end over there that's making $200,000 a year from this school? Yeah, he injured me. And now I would like to get a piece of that change.
Yeah.
That's going to be a problem because attorneys are ruthless and terrible people. So, wow. I didn't even think, I didn't even think of the Title IX thing, and I didn't even think of the walk-ons. But I think if you don't pay them something and make them sign waivers, I think if they get hurt in practice, I think they're going to be able to either sue the school or sue the person that hurts them, depending on how much of a bag those guys got.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be interesting to see where everything goes from here, because it's all changing so fast. Some people like it, some people don't, but it's something that we're all going to have to come to terms with and come to live with.
But remember the bad guys in this, okay? You can't hate the kids. You can't hate the kids because they're doing what kids do. They're doing what people do. When they were held back for 100 years, we held college athletes back. And now the pendulum has swung. I think in a couple of years, it will settle somewhere. I think kids will stop hopping the way they hop all the time. I think somehow, some way it'll figure itself out. The very first, and I know we're trying to wrap up here, but the very first big recruiting class that we had, Texas A&M went out, spent a gang of money, and got the #1 recruiting class in the history of college recruiting. Remember that?
Where are those guys now?
How'd that work out for them? Now look at how the money is being spent. Everyone thought, oh, all the teams with the best money is going to get all the best players. It didn't work out that way, did it? Now, if you talk to high school recruits are actually not getting huge NIL deals. People who are getting huge NIL deals are kids who are already on campus, getting paid to stay, or transfers. Kids that we have seen their body of work, that we know that they have talent and ability. We're no longer gambling on high school kids. Hey, imagine that. We tried this. We spent a lot of money. We got no return for it. Guess what? Really smart people with a lot of money, they do. When they make bad investments, they learn from them, and they don't make those bad investments again. So now we're going to invest in more safe things. We have already seen the pendulum kind of lower a little bit, hadn't we?
Yeah.
So I think it will continue, and I think we're going to have 4 or 5 years of chaos. This is based off 100 years of total restriction. And at some point in time, we'll tell our kids about, how things were crazy. And now it's just normal and things will settle down and you'll have a couple of kids transfer. I think it'll figure itself out. Life always finds a way. It does. Right now, we're going to live in chaos for a while. I don't like the chaos, but I'm also not afraid of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, another interesting note is I think we're going to see the pendulum kind of come down a little bit more depending on how the Ole Miss scenario plays out this year. Because you mentioned Texas A&M, they paid for that #1 recruiting class, and look where that got them. Well, Ole Miss kind of did the same thing this year, but with the transfer portal.
That's right.
Let's see how that plays out for them and see if that pendulum kind of comes down a little bit more too.
That's right.
So, well, Chris, it has been fun tonight. We got a couple of topics that we have gone in depth on, and it's something that I have been wanting to talk about for a while.
Good.
I'm glad that you brought this up to me last night as something that we could come on and talk about. We've got a couple more topics that we'll probably talk on next week as well, because we hit on, I guess, technically 3 topics whenever you add in the playoffs into that, but I had in 2 categories. We had 5 of them that we planned on coming on here talking about tonight. So, but it's been awesome.
And when we don't have X's and O's, when we don't actually have games to talk about and to break down and to predict, like these are the things that get me fired up. Like I said, these are the things that I think about at night. I love this sport. I love it so much. I hate what it has become, but I know why the things have happened the way they've happened. I think the villains are not the villains that everyone all thinks is the villains. I think the NCAA are bad guys. I think conference commissioners are bad guys. I think these are people that don't do anything productive for the sport at all. They just take and take and take from it. And I would just like to start pointing these guys out. I would like to shine a mirror and a light on these folks that are the problem and not point it to, I'm pissed off that this kid didn't go to my school and he went to some other school and now he's making $300,000 a year and that piece of crap. Like, no. He's not the bad guy. Okay. He's just not.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Chris, it's been fun tonight. You want to tell the folks where they can find you?
Yeah, man. I'm on Twitter at Chris B. Giannini.
Yep. So go give Chris a follow on the X, Twitter, whatever you call it. Yeah. I'm Michael from the Vol Fanatics Show. You can find me on YouTube, the Vol Fanatics Show, also on Twitter at Vol Fanatics 1998. Wherever you get your podcast, you can listen to the Vol Fanatics Show. My co-host Skylar and I go live every Sunday at 2 Eastern time. And well, it looks like we might have lost Chris here, but see, here we go. I think we're back now. But anyway, from myself, from Chris, we appreciate you guys tuning in this evening, and we will see you next week.